Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Minimalist Gourmet, where today I'll be teaching you how to make mini cheesecakes. That's right, these miniature cheesecakes are super easy to make, super delicious, and super quick. The best part is I'll teach you two different variants to make. So let's go ahead and get started. To begin, we will start at the crust. As I said, there'll be two different kinds I'll be teaching you how to make today. The first one here is going to have an Oreo cookie crust. Now here I have about 10 tablespoons of Oreo crumbs. You can find these in the baking section, but if you don't have them available where you're at, you can go ahead and crush up some Oreos in a food processor or by hand. For our second crust, I'll be making them with shortbread. These have a fantastic buttery and rich flavor. They also have a fantastic texture that's nice and crumbly. I actually just purchased these from the store. They're Walker's brand. I highly recommend them. But guys, remember that you can make your crust with any number of different things, such as a sweet cracker, cookie. Of course, graham crackers are always classic, so let your imagination run wild. Since I'm using whole shortbread cookies here, I need to crush them up. This will be the same process if you're using something like graham crackers as well. So you just want to go ahead and go through, crush them up until they are relatively fine texture here and you have a good crumb. You don't have to be too fine though. I like mine a little coarse. And to turn that flavor dial up to 11, I'll be adding a little bit of ground cinnamon to my shortbread cookie base. To make this into a crust, I've melted about 3 or 4 tablespoons of butter just in the microwave, and I'm going to split it between the two crusts, pouring about half over the first and half over the second. This will bond everything together here and allow it to form into a nice crust. Now go ahead and thoroughly mix your crumbs and your butter together until they form a nice crumbly paste, just like this. This will form the base to make our crust. This recipe will make 12 mini-sized cheesecakes that are the size of muffins. Now, I don't have a muffin tin, so I'm just using some silicone liners that I purchased off Amazon. These things are excellent. They're very flexible, nothing sticks to them, and one of the best parts is that they can stand up on their own without the use of a tin like this. So if you're working in a minimalist kitchen, this is a great way to make these. Since we're using two different crusts here, we'll be making 6 with the Walker shortbread crust and 6 with the Oreo cookie crust. So we're going to go through here and place 1 tablespoon of our crust filling into each of the muffin tins, and then use our tablespoon here to press it out into the bottom and slightly up to the sides. This will form our nice base to put our filling in later. And for the other 6 of our muffin liners, we'll be placing in 1 tablespoon of our Oreo cookie mixture here and pressing it down nice and solid into the base. You want to use a spoon or a tablespoon like I'm doing here to press it down into the bottom so that it doesn't mix with the cheesecake filling later on when we pour it in. And by the way, guys, if you happen to be using some paper cupcake liners in a muffin tin, those will work 100% as well, so don't worry. With our crusts prepped up, we are going to move on to the filling. Here I have one 8-ounce brick of cream cheese that I've allowed to come up to room temperature completely. And to this, I'm going to add 1½ eggs. Now we're going to take an electric mixer and beat this really well. If you don't have an electric mixer or a stand mixer, that's no problem whatsoever. You can absolutely do this with a whisk by hand. It's just going to take a little bit longer. You want to make sure to beat the cream cheese thoroughly, allowing it to break down and mix with the egg completely. It'll look a little bit chunky at first, but the more you mix it, the smoother it will get. Of course, as you go, you want to make sure to scrape down your bowls and stir it from the bottom to make sure that everything is thoroughly mixed and you don't have any missing spots. It'll take a few minutes of mixing, but you want to make sure that it's nice and creamy and it looks consistent throughout. To this, we're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of salt, as well as 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And our final ingredient in our filling is going to be 1/2 of a 14-ounce can, that's 7 ounces, of sweetened condensed milk. That's right, there's no other ingredients in the filling. This is a very simple recipe and it is extremely quick to make. It is also delicious. Once we add in our last ingredients here, we need to make sure that we mix our filling thoroughly again so that all of our ingredients are well mixed and incorporated completely. Your filling is mixed well enough when it is nice and creamy and smooth. You shouldn't see any streaks of color or lumps at all. With our crusts prepped up and the filling done, now we can move on to assembly. We need to fill each of our muffin liners with enough of the filling to come about 4/5 of the way to the top. Now these don't really expand when they're cooking, so you don't really have to worry about them overfilling and boiling over. Try to get an equal amount of filling in each one of your muffin cups so that they will all finish at the same time. As I said, this recipe makes exactly 12 mini cheesecakes with nothing to waste. I like to tap my tray on the counter a few times to try to work out any air bubbles that might be in there from the mixing. Place into a preheated 350-degree oven, or in my case, toaster oven, and cook for about 15 to 17 minutes. Like I said, guys, this recipe is super easy. There's no springform pan, no wrapping it in aluminum foil, and no water bath. After 16 minutes of cooking, I'm going to pull these out and check them. They do look done to me, but really the only way to confirm is by testing them with your finger. Now, they should feel spongy, but rebound nicely, and you shouldn't have any batter that sticks to your finger. It should feel like a firm scrambled egg. You know these are done. Now, you want to let these sit at room temperature for about 45 minutes to an hour before you cover them with some saran wrap and then put them into the freezer for at least 2 to 4 hours. That'll allow them to firm up completely. And with the magic of editing, it is now 4 hours later, and I've pulled my mini cheesecakes out of the fridge. They have set up quite nice and are ready to remove from the silicone wrapping. Now, take a look at how easy this is. Like I said, nothing sticks to these little cupcake liners because they're silicone, so removal is extremely easy. You just have to basically turn it inside out and boom, they pop right out without any damage, and that could not be easier. Want to see that again? I do. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. All you have to do is fold back these little silicone liners and these cheesecakes will pop right out. But don't worry, if you guys are using a paper muffin liner, then you don't have to worry whatsoever. You can serve it in the paper liner if you'd like, or you can take them out. Nothing should stick. I'll be topping the Oreo crust cheesecake with some homemade caramel sauce. And don't worry, I'll leave a link on the end card here to my short that shows you how to make this very simple caramel sauce at home in minutes. It is absolutely delicious and works fantastic. I've placed a nice dose of my caramel here in a plastic bag, and I'm going to make a makeshift piping bag out of this. Simply place it into the bag, work it out to the tip here, and take a pair of scissors to trim off the end, just like that, and boom, you have a cheap makeshift piping bag. Now, guys, I'll be honest with you, I'm not that great at decorating cakes or muffins for that matter, or cheesecakes, but it's really not about the look for me, it's about the flavor. I'm going to go ahead and pipe over a little bit of this caramel sauce across the top and do the best job that I can to make it look pretty. For my shortbread crusts, I have some homemade passion fruit curd here. And guess what, guys? I'll be leaving a link on the end card for the short on how to make this delicious passion fruit curd at home, again in minutes. It is delicious. Once again, we're going to be making a makeshift piping bag just out of a cheap plastic bag by loading it up with a little bit of our curd and then trimming off the tip. And again, as I said, I'm really not that good at decorating, as you can tell, but it's all about the taste for me. So if you're better at this than me, good on you. We're going to spread a little bit across the top here so that every bite gets a nice little bit of that curd. Now, you guys can decorate these as you like. I'm going to be doing a nice variety of these cheesecakes so that everybody's tastes can be met. I'm going to add a little bit of whipped cream here to one of the Oreo cheesecakes, and I'm going to add a little bit of whipped cream to one of the shortbread cheesecakes. Now, to add a little bit of texture and make it just that much nicer to eat, I'm going to put on a little bit of extra uncooked Oreo crumbles to the Oreo crust one and place a little bit of crushed up shortbread cookies to the shortbread crust one for some texture and flavor and a little bit of variety. And it's just that easy, guys, to make these delicious miniature cheesecakes at home tonight. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching. I sincerely do appreciate your time today, and I hope to see you all again here real soon on another episode of Minimalist Gourmet.